This is a 1957 D28, and I haven't had a 50s in quite a while. In fact, I'm not sure how many good videos I have of 50s. The 50s are kind of unique years in the fact that the X-brace is way back from the sound hole. This is like, you know, the 30s, the X-brace was about an inch from the sound hole. You can stick your finger in here and feel like that, and you can feel it right there. And then they moved back a little bit, and then by the 50s, for I don't know what reason, you know, I don't know when exactly the shift occurs, or whether it was a gradual shift or a sudden shift or whatever. But in the 50s, mid 50s, especially, man, that X-brace is almost 2 inches back from the sound hole. And if you ever have to replace a bridge plate on one, the bridge plate is tiny. It's, you know, it's this tiny little bridge plate, because the X is scooted back, and so there's just less space in there. The difference between a 30s bridge plate and a 50s bridge plate, man, you know, 30s bridge plate's about like that big, and the 50s is about like that big. There's barely enough room to get the 6 pins on that bridge plate without hitting the X-braces. I mean, that's the difference. They've got this kind of tone. It's a very snappy, nasally, bright, punchy tone. It's just completely opposite spectrum from a 30s D28, which would have a big, bassy, boomy, rich, warm, non-cutting tone. And 50s guitars, man, they cut like a knife because they're so tight and focused. The other thing about a 50s is you notice the pickguard shape. The pickguard shape has got this square edge butt over here. Here's a 1941 authentic for comparison. So just look at the pickguard shape on it, and you see what I'm talking about. This is also a good chance to look at the difference between a Sitka top and an Adirondack spruce top, a red spruce top. You can really see the color difference here. The Sitka top's always got a brownish look to it. Adirondack, Engelmann have a yellowish. Of course, this has got a little bit of a toner on it, but it still is an accurate color. It's a yellowish tone to it. So, anyway. All I did, the other thing about the 57 is the tuners. It's got these waffle back tuners. Yeah, those are the waffle backs. Man, these are hard to find a replacement for if you ever have to replace them. It's hard to find something without footprint on it. In fact, I've never actually replaced one. I'm trying to think. I can't remember ever replacing them. I try to live with them. And one company, Clisson makes a replacement, I believe. These work good, and so, you know, we leave them in there. But if you ever have to do a 50s and you have bad tuners, you're going to have to deal with something there. I am fairly sure I've done like a Waverly replacement on there. And a lot of times what I do, if the tuner holes don't line up exactly, rather than drilling fresh holes in the headstock, is I take the tuner and get a little file and hog out the hole to make the hole a little bit longer, and then a lot of times I line up. And that way you don't do any damage to the guitar. But these tuners are working good. They're unique to the mid-50s, and they're kind of cool, so we'll leave them in there. All I did on this guitar, one of the easiest guitars I've worked on, is I did a neck reset on it. I needed a neck reset. The frets are in good shape. The nut's great. The spacing on the nut is excellent, and that's the original nut. So I did a neck reset. The pickguard was curling, starting to curl up, and I took it off, scraped it off like that, and again it had enough wood on the bottom that I put fish glue on the base, glued it and clamped it back down, and it's looking really nice right now. And it did lay flat, which was good. It feels a lot better. It was curling up, and that's going to cause, it's got a little crack right there from the B string, which is no big deal. I'm not going to worry about that. Of course, I put a new saddle on it, and I put ebony bridge pins in there to replace the stock plastic slotted ones. The bridge was pretty much slotted. I just cleaned up the holes a little bit, so we now have a nice non-slotted pins that aren't going to bend and break and that kind of thing. The stock pins are, really curled up, and so when I cleaned up the slotting and these non-slotted pins, the bridge plate is in good shape. That's it, man. It went pretty quick. Neck reset, fixed the pickguard, put the pins in there. The bridge has been cracked at one time and has a really good repair on it. I can just barely see it on here. And the owner made me, look at it a couple of times. But yeah, I would have thought it was just a grain line, and it looks really good. It's got the typical small 50s bridge, which is the one that I use for a model when I make my own bridges. It's about 50 thousandths, 40 thousandths of an inch narrower than your modern 70s bridges. So, that's my model bridge. It's nice. I mean, look at the Brazilian on it. Brazilian rosewood. That's the stuff right there. That looks, man, that is fantastic. Brazilian rosewood. It's just got one little character deal on each end, which is great. Beautiful sides and back. The binding is in excellent condition. Modern Martins are having this problem where the binding's popping up, and this one's just nice. You can feel the ridges a little bit. You can feel it shrunk a bit, but 57, pretty good shape. The necks, they're handmade. They vary a lot. They have certain characteristics from the years, and I think this is pretty typical of one. It's got a fairly good V to it. Not a sharp V, but it's pretty pronounced V. The neck is 1/11/16. It's a little bit on the narrow side. I measured it, and it's just a smidgen under 11/16. It's a narrow neck with a nice chunky V. The taper is very smooth and even. It's a very comfortable 1/11/16 inch neck. I used to not like non-scalloped straight brace guitars, especially in a Brazilian rosewood bright guitar like that. But over the years, I've kind of gotten used to the voice, and I've learned where that voice works good. And where it works good is in an ensemble. It's when you have a bass over here and a mandolin or a banjo or whatever over here. Something like a 50s with that tight, punchy, focused sound is going to really cut. It wouldn't be my first choice, for a rhythm guitar. I would want more of a warmer, bigger sound. But for a combination lead rhythm guitar, hard to beat these. It's a good guitar. So it's been a pleasure working on this one. Let's see what else on there. D28.